So welcome to our session number 2 on camping skills, and this is for our junior Pathfinders. We look forward to having a lively session with you for camping skills. Now, how many of you have been to a camp before? Okay, please put in the chat, camp, if you've been to a camp before. If you've been to a camp before, please indicate camp. And that's good. We have a number of persons who've been to camps before. Okay, now if you've been to an outdoor camp, put outdoor in the chat. Outdoor means you're in a tent outside with no beds inside of a classroom or no comfort, but you've been to an outdoor camp. Okay, I'm seeing that we have some Pathfinders who've been to outdoor camps, and I'm not seeing as many, but I do hope that after COVID has affected us this greatly in Dominica, we will be able to move to outdoor camps. Now today we also have some of our coordinators who are on this call. So once our coordinators come in, they will be able to support us in this presentation. We may have Sister Defoe, we may have Miss Cindy, we may have Igna, we may have Henrietta, so our coordinators who would be able to support us in this presentation. So now I move to share with you what we'll be doing for friend, companion, and explorer. Now our explorers would have or should have already done what the friends and companions are doing. Companions should have already done what the friends will know today, but we want all Pathfinders to know all of these areas. If you're in friends, you're going to be a little bit more advanced by knowing about companion and explorer. Companion, you'll know more about explorer, but everyone should know what the friends will be knowing today. We're going to know about how ropes are made and how to care for them. We're going to know of 10 hiking rules and what to do when lost. We're going to learn about track and trail, knowing about safety, knowing about types of tents and how to care for our tents. We're also going to know about the 8 general directions and how can you know which direction, where is where without the use of a compass. We're also going to know the rules for selecting a campsite. We're going to know about a topographical map, really what it is, and 12 signs and symbols we should look for on a topographical map. I hope you guys are excited to learn about these areas today because it will definitely make you a better community member and a better person for survival. Now, we move to our first slide on how ropes are made. Can persons put in, well, can you tell us, how do you think ropes are made? I know you're seeing it here on the screen, but how do you think ropes are made? Anyone? Yes, Jai?
How I think ropes are made, I think ropes are made by mini little ropes tied together to make something big.
Mm-hmm. That's very good.
So instead of it being a small little rope, we take the small little ropes to make big ropes, so it will not break as fast.
That's very good. Anyone else want to share? Thank you so much, Jai, for sharing. So, welcome. Yes, I see another hand. You could go.
From silk, from bog silk.
From what silk?
Silk, blob.
Okay, from silk. Yes, that's also true. And thank you so much for sharing that to Pathfinder Shama and Jai. And I'm also sharing that ropes are made from different materials, such as from fiber or from hemp. It's also made from more synthetic materials. Synthetic means it's not natural, but it's something that they manufactured. So from plastic or from nylon, and it's made with these other materials to ensure that it does not rot. Because if it's not made from natural material, then if you have plastic cannot rot, and it also cannot mildew. So we also see here on the screen different types of ways that the ropes are made. It could either be making them, twisting them together. And like Jai said, you put them together so that they can be stronger, and different patterns make different types of ropes. Okay, so we now move to the next one where we understand how to care for ropes. Have you ever been fed up and you wonder, like, why are all my ropes tangling up? Or you may have some cords and why are they all tangling up? So we're going to understand how to care for our ropes. Now, we first want to ensure that our ropes are kept as dry as possible. If they're wet, they're going to get mildew, they're going to spoil, and they're not going to be as usable as we want them to be. Then we must always check our ropes at different times to see, is this twisting out, or is this rotting in this part, or is it mashing up in this part, so that you can see how you can strengthen the life of the rope. Now, when we have our ropes, we do not just lump them and put them into a plastic or put them in a corner. We should coil them. That means we should wrap them up and keep them as dry as possible. We must also not step or walk on our rope that's laying on the ground, because if we do walk on them, then we could damage them. We could also damage ourselves because our feet could get knocked or twisted in the rope, and we could fall and hurt ourselves. I'm seeing a hand, yes?
Excuse me, miss, Khalid is trying to get your attention.
Okay, I'm not seeing Khalid here, but Khalid, you raise your hands?
Miss, I was saying that I missed the first part of the presentation, miss.
You missed the first part of what, sorry?
Of the presentation.
Okay, the first part we're just starting off. We just did on how ropes are made, and we now did on how to care for ropes, and we're moving on to hiking rules. Now, because we have several things to do, we'll also share the recording so you could get to review, and you could also get the presentation so you could get to review the information as well, right? Okay, thank you. And thanks for sharing, Khalid. Now, hiking rules. How many of you have been to a hike? Okay, I'm seeing some hands. Great. Now, there are different things that we need to do when we're going hiking. A hike must be planned, first of all. We wouldn't just go aimlessly and say, okay, well, I'm just going to walk up until I reach the top of Mont Diablotin. Then you just start walking and have no idea what you're doing. You didn't wear the proper clothes. You just leave your bed and you went straight to Mont Diablotin. Is that a wise thing to do? No, I'm seeing your head. No, that's certainly not a wise thing to do.
Oh.
So we need to ensure that we plan for our hike. Now, the hike is not a race. I know when we're going to different spots, we may be going somewhere, everyone wants to rush and try to see who gets there first. And the first person gets that joy that they have arrived first. But a hike is not a race. A hike is a hike. It's journeying to some place that you've planned to go to, but it's certainly not a race. Hikers should also be in good health. Now, there are some individuals that hiking may not be best suited for. Some of us could think of our grandmother or grandfather who may not be able to go hiking because they're not in good health and they're not in a proper state to go hiking. They may have a leg issue, they maybe have shortness of breath, or they're experiencing some other health challenge why they're unable to go. There are some persons who may have asthma, but before deciding to take that hike, you need to ensure that you have your puff, or you have the other things that support you if in case you have an asthma attack. It's also important that hikers carry a first aid kit. Why is it necessary to carry a first aid kit? And I want someone who's not answered before, someone who didn't answer us as yet. So Annabelle, is that you I'm saying? I'm trying to look at the, okay, I'm seeing Abina. Abina, can you answer? Why is it important to carry a first aid kit?
In case someone gets injured.
That's right, in case someone gets injured. Now I'm going to ask Lindy, why is it important to wear correct clothing?
Because if it's raining, you can get sick if you don't have the correct clothing, and also you have to wear the appropriate clothing for walking up there. Sometimes it can be very cold when you're hiking, according to where you are hiking.
That's very good. Very good. Thank you for sharing that, both of you. It's also important to wear correct clothing, because what if you have a dress and you decide that you're going to climb over a tree because a tree is across the place? Then it's not the best clothing to be able to go hiking with. The next important part, in addition to wearing proper clothing, is wearing proper footwear. How many persons have ever tried hiking with slippers? I hope you've never done that, right? But we know of some persons who've tried to hike with slippers, and slippers is not the proper footwear to go hiking with, okay? We need proper shoes, a tennis shoe, something that have a firm under. You know, sometimes our tennis shoe we've worn it a lot and it may be very slippery or under. We need to make sure that we have good shoe with strong soles so that we can go through the terrain. If in case there's mud and there's a wet path, then we can still get through in walking there. Now, it's important to also carry navigation equipment. Navigation equipment is like a compass, so that we would know how to get from one place to the next. Because in case we get lost, then we want to have that equipment so that we can find our way to safety. Now, another important point is that hikers should obey all safety rules. Hikers should obey all safety rules. And why is it important to obey all safety rules? Okay, yes, I'm seeing, let me make sure I get the correct name. There's another Naomi. Naomi, why is it important?
Because if you don't wear proper, you could slip and fall.
Okay, that's great. Now we're talking about the safety rules. Why is it important to obey all safety rules? Yes, Naomi? Why do you think it's important to obey all safety rules?
If you don't follow them, you could get hurt if you don't do the right thing.
That's very true, Naomi. Good answer. Now we move to, I'll take some of your answers up for the next one. Now, a hiker should always be courteous and cheerful. Is it fun to go hiking with someone who's grumpy and complaining the whole way?
No.
Okay, no. Certainly not. So why is it important to be courteous and cheerful? That hand is up, the person whose hand is up right now. That's F. Okay, so I'll ask Dylan. Dylan, why is it important to be courteous and cheerful?
So that you can be encouraged and reach the top. That's
very true, very true. And the final one is the hiker goes all the way. So if we're saying that we're going to Boiling Lake, we don't stop at the top of Valley of Desolation, except if we have a real health issue. But we're going all the way to Boiling Lake because that's where we do plan to go. Now we want to talk about what to do when lost, because sometimes when we are going hiking, we may get lost. Now, before I put up the slide, I know some of you may have seen it. What should you do if you're lost when hiking? Yes, Khalid?
Miss, you have to stay one place and you can also make a distress signal.
Okay, great. Lindy, what do you do?
You try to remember the way you came from, and also you should try your best to alert somebody else or around you. If you have a map, you can use the map and try to locate where you are.
Okay, great.
Make a distress signal.
Okay, great. The person in the yellow and blue shirt, I think that's what I'm seeing. Weir, right? You're raising your hand, but what's your name? Weir. Okay, Weir. So what should you do if you're lost? Okay, great. Thank you. Naomi, what do you do if you're lost?
You You could use your compass.
Okay, great. You could use a compass. Thanks. And Jai?
You stay where you are. You get familiar with the place where you
That's very good. Annabelle?
are, and try or you call anybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Annabelle?
Pray and ask God to help you find your way.
Amen. Thank you very much. Kajay?
Start a fire.
Start a fire. Thank you so much. Now you guys are so brilliant. We just have to run through this next slide now because you've almost given like everything. Now we sit down and think, don't panic. That's the first thing if you're lost. And always remember, never panic if you're lost. You also pray and ask God to help you because prayer works miracles and can get us out of the toughest moments. Now you mark the spot where you are. That was very important. What the person said, they added two of them together, which is important. Stay where you are and also mark that spot, because if in case you move around and you come back to that spot, you would know, oh, I was there before. So, and this is the way I took. So let me figure out when next I could go. But also staying where you are is important because it could also help persons to find you in that spot if it's too difficult to find your way. Now you could also use a map and a compass. If you have a map, you could, and we'll be going through topographical maps later, so it will help you to know how to read a map. And if you have a compass, you could know, okay, where is north, where is south, where is east, where is west. If I'm here, if I go towards there, I'm going more into the bush. But if I go here, I'm going more towards the ocean. That means I could maybe find a road. You could also climb a tree. They say whenever you're lost, you elevate yourself. So you go up. If you go up, you may be able to increase your view and see, oh, there's a road over there. So if I walk this way, then I can get through to the road. You could also light a fire because it could keep you warm if you're cold, but it could also help persons to be able to see, oh, someone is there. Let me go and find them. And it could also be a way of giving out a distress signal. Okay, I know I'm seeing your hands. We do have a number of other areas to go through as it's a masterclass. So I will take your hand for some of the others, okay? Now, we're looking at track and trail. How many of you have been on track and trail? Raise your hands in the Zoom. If you've been on track and trail, or put in the chat, yes, you've been on track and trail. If you've been on track and trail, you could put yes in the chat. Great, I'm seeing some yes, and I'm seeing some raised hands. Thank you very much. Now, when we are going on track and trail, there are some signs that are really important to help us. And those who have not been on a track and trail as yet, I hope that someday soon you get to go on a track and trail because it's very fun and interesting to be able to identify the signs and find our way based on what the signs are telling us. So the first one that we use, okay, so if anyone is annotating, we ask that you do not annotate so that we can clear, so that we can see properly, okay? Now, the first thing is, if you see a twig is bent in that direction, it says, go this way. So you see the twig, it says go right, so you go this way. Now, another way of saying to go this way is if you see a stick in the road pointing out. So you would see it clearly in the path pointing, go this way. Now, part of how you get to know if it's a long distance, you would see another stick towards the top end of that stick pointing this way. That means it's a very long distance that we have to go if we walk in this way. But if I want to know that it's a short distance, then you put the stick towards the base of the stick that's pointing out. I hope you're all looking at the screen. So you see where you have number 3, it says it's a long distance, it's at the top of that stick pointing in the right direction. And if it's a short distance, the stick pointing upwards is at the base of the stick that's pointing diagonal. I hope we all seen this here at number 4. If you've seen this at number 4, please say yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. You guys
Yes.
are awesome. Awesome. Now, If you want to indicate how many miles to go, if we're saying that 4 miles to go, you could have 4 sticks pointing upwards behind the diagonal stick that's pointing to the right. So it says 4 miles to go in the direction of right. Okay? If the stick was pointing to the left, it would be 4 miles to go in the direction of left. Or if you maybe wanted to put 3 miles to go, you could say, put 3 sticks and have 3 miles to go in the direction of left or right. Okay, so we can either show the direction by having a twig and not a tree. You don't break a tree, but you could have a twig pointing in that direction if we don't have a stick that we could put diagonal to say you go this way to the right or you go this way to the left. Now we see that there's another way that we can show this way. We could have a Y-shaped tree pointed up, and you could have another stick that's Y-shaped pointing in the direction of where to go. And that direction pointing where to go would be the 1. So the bottom of the stick is a 2, the top of the stick is the 1, and it points this way. Now, if we have the 2 of them pointing to this way, it will be difficult to figure out which way to go. So we use the stick that would have the 1 pointed, the 1 that is the top of the stick pointing to the right, that would be this way. So imagine if we point in, just like we have our fingers, the 1 finger points that way, this is the way to go. All right? So we don't follow the lower end of the stick, we follow the top end, which is the one that have just 1 pointer, 1 stick pointer. We have a few more areas to look at for the signs for track and trail. If we also want to say, this is the way, that we want to encourage persons to know you're on the correct path of going, you have a big stone at the base and you put a small stone at the top of it. That means you're going the correct way, okay? If you're walking and you want your team members to know you're going the correct way, we're on the right path, you have a big stone below and you put a smaller one on top, this is the correct way. All right, then we have, if you want to turn to the right, you have the big stone below, the small one on top, and you put a small stone on the right side. It says turn to the right. If you want them to turn to the left, you put the small stone on the left side of it. So you have the big stone at the base, the small stone at the top, and you turn, and you have one at the base on the left side. Another way of saying that you're on the correct path, you could, if you have some grass around and it's a lot of grass and you're in a grassy area and there are no stones, you could take some grass together, pull it together and pass one around it so they can know, okay, this is the correct way to go still. If you want them to know that they need to turn to the right or left, you bend the top of that grass and make it turn to the right, or you bend the top of the grass to the left if you want them to turn left. Okay, so there are different ways. If you have sticks, use sticks. If you have stones, use stones. If you have grass, you use grass. And another way of saying this is the way you could put, if you just have 2 sticks, you put the 2 sticks facing the right if you want them to go right, the left, or whichever way that you would want them to go. If you have pebbles, you can also use pebbles, stones, to identify this is the way. That means if you have no big stone and small stone, but you have a lot of little stones, you could put it that this is the way that you go. The same for a branch, like we mentioned, if you want them to know which way to go, you use the part that's pointing so that they could go in that direction. Everyone understand about this track and trail?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, miss.
Anyone have any questions?
Yes, miss.
Questions about the sign?
Yes, miss.
Okay,
No,
great.
miss.
Any questions about the signs?
Yes, miss.
No.
I'm not seeing the chat right now to know if there are any.
Miss,
Yes.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Naomi? Is that Naomi? Who have the question? Okay, yes. Go ahead. Yes, what's your question? We're not hearing anything if you have the question. Khalid, you have a question?
Yes, Miss. Are there any other objects you can use to sign?
Okay, so you'd have to look at other objects in the area that you are, depends on what area you are. And you would have to put them either making that same direction. The important thing is using what's around you. If you have stones, use stones. If you have grass, use grass. If you have sticks, you can also use sticks, okay? Everyone got that? We hope everyone got that. So we're moving on to the next point, which is road safety. We all walk on roads, right? We all walk. Now, I want you to not use the remote control or the annotator, clear all drawings. Please ensure that you do not draw so that we can all view together a clean
Sorry,
screen.
Miss.
Okay, so for road safety, what are some ways that we could be safe on the road?
Watch up and down.
Ensure to watch up and down. Very good.
Left to right.
Make sure you watch the signs on the road.
Watch the signs on the road, okay?
Make sure you look at the person's signs for you to go or stay where you are.
Okay, make sure you look at the signs to go or stay where you are.
Always play safe.
Always play safe.
Never play on the road.
Okay, Mark Perkins, I'm seeing Mark Perkins' hands.
You can watch left to right.
Yes, Mark Perkins?
You could watch left to right.
Okay, you could watch left to right. Very good.
That's to walk on the side on the pedestrian crossing.
Okay, I'm going to ask
Right.
Malika Dupini to share with us one of the ways you can be safe.
Do not just cross the road.
Very good. How about you, Crystalline Robin?
Do not just cross on a pedestrian crossing. Wait for the vehicle to actually wait for the driver to notice you.
Okay, thank you very much. You guys are very brilliant. Now I'm going to go through this. I know we have a lot to do in this time, but we are going to go through quickly. We have to look in both directions before crossing the road. I think from primary school and from those who've been to preschool, that's one of the first things that we learn. Look left and look right, okay? Then we do not cross behind or in front. We do not cross the road behind or in front of a parked car, okay? Because you're not sure if that vehicle would move back or move forward. Then we also use a pedestrian crossing where one is provided. Sometimes we see in Roseau, the pedestrian crossing is just there and the person wants to cross the road and they cross in like 2 meters from there. Jenkins, please try not to annotate. Please try not to annotate, okay? Let's keep the screen clear. Now, it's important to use the pedestrian crossing because this is where drivers would know that you're supposed to cross. Sometimes we trust drivers too much and we pass in areas that we're not supposed to pass. And if a vehicle is coming, do not just dart across the road, okay? Do not attempt to get on or off a moving vehicle. If you're on a van, there are lots of persons who like to show that they're boss and they want to jump out of a moving vehicle, but please wait until the vehicle has stopped so that you could get off. It's also important to walk along the footpath or sidewalk instead of on the road. So if you're walking, there's a sidewalk, walk on the sidewalk instead of walking down on the road. A vehicle is walking by pretty quickly. Yes, Khaled?
Miss, also, if you see a vehicle incoming, look at the indication light that it is showing. Like if the light is showing that it's going left, then go on the right, Miss.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing that, Khalid. So it's also important to look at, to make sure that the road is clear before passing. All right, not even if a vehicle is turning right, you can decide you're going, because sometimes they could always turn and go a different area than where they're indicating. Sometimes there are drivers who do make this mistake, so please be cautious of that. Now, where there is no footpath, walk on the side of the road that faces the oncoming traffic. So that means if, like in Dominica, we drive on the left-hand side. So if I'm going this way, instead of the vehicle coming behind me, they could always jam me. Then I walk on the other side of the road where I can see the vehicles coming towards me. Okay? Or vehicles drive on the left side, you always go in the way of the oncoming traffic. So you can see the vehicles coming to you, not having to turn behind every time and wonder, are they going to jam me or not? Okay? And always play in safe places, never on the road. Do not play on the road. Now we move to the next part of this. I know we have to go along pretty quickly, so I will make sure your mic is muted, but if you have a point to make, you raise your hand and I will take you. I see Lindy, your hand is up.
Yes, miss. Miss, if you're walking across, even when you're on the pedestrian crossing, I experienced this already in Guadeloupe. Even when you're on the pedestrian crossing, sometimes vehicles block your view of the rest of the road. So you have to make sure if the driver that there doesn't have a vehicle incoming. Because what can happen, they might have a big truck blocking you from seeing, and then you're walking across on the pedestrian crossing. Somebody else coming and boom, they hit you and you die. So you have to make sure you watch and you have to always be cautious when crossing the road.
Very true. Thank you for sharing that, Lindy. And we see like even in Canefield, for those of you who pass this way, there's the pedestrian crossing here. And sometimes the buses stop to put persons down, and persons may not necessarily look if a next vehicle is coming, but a vehicle is coming behind, and they sometimes almost jam persons on that pedestrian crossing. So whenever you're crossing, if your view is obstructed, ensure to look up and down before you cross, even on a pedestrian crossing. All right, thank you very much for sharing, Lindy. We'll move to bicycle safety. Now, how many of you have ridden a bicycle before? Put in the chat, yes. In the chat, please put it in the chat. If you have, if you've not, you could also put no, okay? Okay, so there are several persons who've ridden a bicycle before. There may be some who have not ridden one before. Okay, I'm also seeing no.
Yes.
And it's important that if we have, or if we've not done it as yet, that we understand the safety of how to ride a bicycle or use a bicycle safely. Now we need to learn to ride in our yard or nearby in an area that is permitted. Do not ride on the road until your mother or father say that you can, okay? You need to learn to ride in an area that is safe, because on the road could have a lot more dangers, such as vehicles that are coming or obstruction, or if you live in an area that's hilly, that may be quite difficult to ride in that area. Avoid busy roads as well. Ensure that you are not riding in an area that's very busy, because you could get knocked down because vehicles are passing by pretty quickly. You also ride with the flow of the traffic close to the curb. We see some persons riding the bicycle and they're riding in the middle of the road. This is not safe. Whenever you're riding your bicycle, ride it close to the curb. That's like close to the side of the road. Okay, and ride in the direction that the traffic is going. The traffic goes from the left, on the left side. Do not ride on the right side in the oncoming traffic. It's very dangerous. Now, always watch for parked cars opening their doors suddenly. That happened to me once when I was riding in Shanghai. I was watching out, but the person just opened their door and I rode straight into. That's not a good thing to do. So always watch out for cars that are parked and they could open their doors so that you don't ride into the door, because you could damage yourself. You must also never ride on the footpath. The footpath or the sidewalk is for persons who are walking, okay? Not for bicycles to be riding on. Ride in the places that are on the road, close to the curb, but the sidewalk is for people to walk. Also, obey all traffic signs. Now, in Dominica, we don't have traffic lights, but you could move to another country later in your life where you see traffic signs and it says red, do not go now. Do not ride then, because it's not safe for riding then. When it's green, then you can ride through. Okay, make sure to look, or ensure to look at the traffic signs for when it's safe to go or when you need to stop. It's also important to stop, look and listen before entering a road. There's some others that we, yes?
Miss, I have not seen a traffic sign in Dominica, Miss.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. In Dominica, we do not have, but if you go to other countries, you may also experience that, okay?
Okay, Miss.
Yes. For those who may have problems in seeing the slides, we will definitely share the slides with you so that if in case you miss any of the slides, you could always get the complete information after, okay? So I also want to encourage you that number 8, you give correct hand signals for turning and stopping. So if you're going this side and you're riding, ensure that you put out your hand that you're going this side, or if you have an indicator to show that you're going to the right, you indicate you're going right. If you're indicating that you're going left, ensure that you indicate you're going left. So don't say, I'm going left, and you turn right and you go right. You could always get yourself in trouble by doing this or hurt someone else who is behind you. Okay, now, never carry or never double or carry another person on your bicycle. Also, no large parcels. It could be a challenge for you to carry large parcels or another person if you cannot manage having someone else on your bike. I know sometimes as children, we want to put someone up at the top of the front or carry something big with us, but that could obstruct our view and it could make us get into an accident, all right? Also, never ride more than 2 together. That means abreast. So if you're riding, it should never be 2 persons riding next to each other, one in front and one behind. Remember, always ride in a single file. Don't ride together because that could mean that something could be coming or there could be some challenge, but you need to have your line of view on the left and right clear of you. Now, keep your bicycle in good condition. If your bicycle is not working well, please do not ride it on the road because you could get in an accident. Also, keep your bicycle under control. I know many persons like to go and they wheelie and they do so many different things because they want to show, yeah, I can ride my bike and I can do really awesome things. But that could get you in serious challenges. You could hurt yourself, you could break some limb, and that would not be good for you and for your future. Also ensure that you have good lights for night riding. Reflectors and a bell may be compulsory. So if you're riding at night, please do not ride a bicycle and it's dark and no one can see you. Ensure that you have reflectors so that persons can see that you're coming or they could hear you're coming, because that's important. And most of all, importantly, wear a helmet. See in the picture here? The young boy is wearing a helmet because he's protecting his head. In case he falls, his head will be protected and it will not suffer damage as to if he did not have a helmet. Okay, and it's not helmets alone, like you mentioned. You could also wear to protect your elbow or to protect your shin or to use other, like your knee pads or something else to keep yourself safe, all right? Any questions on this?
No, miss.
Okay, we're moving right along. We're going quickly. Now,
I have a question.
okay, Khalid, for this one, could you type it in the chat and I'll make sure to answer it? All right, because in the meantime, I want to move to safety in the home for electrical don'ts. All right, we still have some more to go through still, and our time is coming to an end soon. Now, safety in the home, electrical safety, and anyone else have any question, please put it in the chat so that I'd be able to respond to it. Now, overhead wires are dangerous, all right? Fallen wires are also dangerous. If we see a fallen wire, something is exposed, do not go and play in it and touch it up because it could be exposed and you could get electrocuted. Now, if there's some wires hanging out from above you, please don't go try touching it and using wet hands and touching it. That's really unsafe to do. We encourage that we should be wise and we should play safe. If we see something is out or some challenge is there, let's not try and say, okay, I'm a mechanic, or I'm an electrician, or I'm a handyman, I can do it myself, or I'm a handy woman. We get an electrician to help us to do the job of an electrician, okay? Now, when we see or we feel a tingle, let's not ignore it. if you feel a shock from something, the fridge, or we feel a shock somewhere, let's immediately switch off the electricity and pull out the plug. Okay, and we can always get an electrician to look at it. We can't do the job of an electrician. And if we are feeling that shock or that tingle, that means that there's something wrong and we need an electrician to look at it. All right, it's really important to get an electrician to look at that. Then we don't meddle with the power if it's still on. We really don't meddle with it, and we ensure that we plug our appliances into the places that they're supposed to be plugged into. Now, if we look at this screen here and we see the photos that are on the screen, we do not use a damaged plug socket. Now, if a socket is damaged or it's destroyed, we don't plane it or we don't use it, because that means that we could get shocked by using it. We also never cut electrical cords with the scissors. You see that the light or the lamp is plugged into the switch, and someone would have a scissors and they're trying to cut this. This is very, it's a hazard. It's not something that we should do. It's very wrong, and we should never do that. Now, incorrectly wired plug, frayed electricity leads or plugs. If we have loose wires in a plug or socket, like you sometimes have, you could have some electronic, or you could have some plug and there's some wires pulling out from it, we should never use it. We should ensure that it's safe to use. If there's a pool of water, we should not have our plugs in that water, because it will shock us or it will destroy the tool that we're using. Then the fifth one is that we should use the correct fuse wires. A too heavy fuse wire does not protect the wiring, and this can cause a fire. Now, if we have something that's 110 and we plug it in 220, that's very wrong to do. We should always read what it says if it's 110 or 220. With 220, we can use it in the 220 outlet. But if it's 110, we would have to use a transformer if we don't have that direct 110 that we could use, a socket we could use. So let's always read before we plug in electronics. And one of the important things is sometimes, you know, this person wants to charge their phone, this person wants to charge a laptop, this person wants to use an iron, this person wants to do this. And if we all plug it into the same outlet, it could cause overheating, and this can lead to fires. So I want us to ensure that we use safety in doing this. Now we quickly have to move on to, let me just take the points in the chat. If you go to a skate park and you're playing in a playing field that has grass, you can do your tricks. So they're encouraging that you can go in a playing field in a place that have a lot of space, so you could try to do your tricks. But please don't try to do your tricks on the road. And please be careful when you're doing this so that you also don't hurt yourself. Okay? If your breakers go, don't just put them back on. And if you smell fish when you wake up, don't turn on the lights or else. Okay. And you smell smoke, okay? If you wake up and you smell smoke, don't put on the lights, it can cause a spark. Thank you very much for sharing that, Naomi.
Not smoke is gasoline or like the gas in for the stove. If you smell that, don't put off the lights, because the lights use a spark to go on, and if that spark goes on, it can ignite the gas and the whole house can just explode. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
If you smell fish, Miss, I was saying, if you smell fish, do not turn on the lights, because the lights make a spark in the house, and the fish could be something with the electricity, which can cause an electrical fire in your house, and you can actually get hit.
Thank you all for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. Now we move to tents. Some of you have said you've done camping outdoor. That means you've used tents before. All right. Now we're going to look at tents, different types of tents. We have the prism tent. You've seen it at the top. It's, as we've seen on the screen, we have the cone tent, which is like a cone, an ice cream cone upside down. we have the lean-in tents. That's sometimes when we have tarpaulins and we could put the sticks in an upside down V on two sides, and we have the tarpaulin so that we can at least prevent us from the harshness of the wind or the sun. We could also have pyramid tents where we build it this way and we have a flap outer so that we have like a veranda so we can protect ourselves. So there are different types of tents we could use, but we also have different camping tents that often persons use. But we must also know how to care for our tent. I want 3 persons to share with us quickly how we can care for our tent. If you raise your hands, I want to choose persons who have not spoken so often as yet. So if you raise your hands, I will call on you. 3 persons to show us how to use tents. There's Malika, Twinkle, and Alejandra. Okay, Naomi, Twinkle, and Alejandra. Let's go, Naomi. Sorry, Malika, sorry. Malika, Twinkle, and Alejandra. So Malika first. How can you care for your tent?
Do not cut it up.
Very good. Twinkle?
When the tent is wet, don't just fold it and put it away. Give it a chance to dry, then put it away.
Very good. Alejandra?
Clear under your tent so that when you place your tent down, nothing will burst it.
Very good. So, clap for all of you. These are very good points. You know, how we care for our tents as well, we should level the ground of our tent. So if we're camping and there's stones and so many rocky things that could tear the tent, that means we're not caring for it as properly. But these are some points for when we go to camp. Now, the next one is we should remove all sharp rocks and fill all holes or depression. So if there's like a little hole under, we should fill that hole before we put our tent over it. We should also, to save floorware, and that's the base of the tent, many campers may carry something extra. So they could carry like a little rug or something so that they could help to protect the inside part so that they don't have things that's pricking into the base of the tent. Also, if you want your tent to last longer, you can place like plywood or cardboard under the center so that if in case it have bad legs. So you could place stuff below the tent so you can protect the under part where you see the tent area, like the inside of the tent, and under that part, you could put different things so you can protect your tent. And also if it's very windy, you can collapse your tent to protect it. If it's like a storm is coming, if we leave the tent open, it's very flimsy and a tent cannot withstand a storm or hurricane, okay? Maybe by some circumstance, there could be a few, if I have no idea if they can, but it's advisable that we don't keep our tents up. And if it's windy and a storm is coming, we go to a place of shelter. That's why we have shelters that we could go to in case there's a storm. Now, when we are at home, how we can care for our tents, as Twinkle mentioned, we should always dry our tents before putting it away. Never put it away wet. Okay, we should dry it, fold it, and put it away properly. We should also, before putting away our tent, check for if there are tears in it, if they're missing parts of it, if a rope is worn out or there's some issues with it, so we can restore it so that when we're ready to use the tent again, we're not saying, oh my, I'm missing this, or this is wrong with it, and we could have a good time by using our tent every time we need to use it. Now, if waterproofing is needed, do it before storing away. That means if there's a tear on top of it and you need to fix that up so that if when you go out and it rains, inside will not get soaked, take care of that before you store it away. And also make sure you store it in a dry place. If the place is wet and it's down at the base, or that place water could pass and it could wet up the tent, that's not a good place to store it. Make sure you store it elevated and in a dry place that you could use. Now we move to our directions. I think this is a very interesting part. And I know our time is coming to an end, but I want us to understand this part. 8 directions without the aid of a compass. How many persons know how to know where is north and south? or east and west if they do not have a compass? Alejandra?
I know.
Yes, share with us.
The sun does rise in the east. So opposite from where the sun rises is the west. And then below is the south. And up is the north.
Very good. That's very good. That's one of the excellent ways of knowing the directions in case you do not have a compass. And as we see, there's north, south, west, and east. And we also have between north and west, we have northwest. Between south and west, we have southwest. Between north and east, we have northeast. And between south and east, we have southeast. So I'm actually in the northeast of Dominica, because if we look at Dominica, we have Capuchin to the north, we have Scottsdale to the south. But we have, let's say, Kalinago territory or Casabruce to the east, and Vence is between that. So I'm seeing on this side over there would be, we have Penville over on that side, and we have the sun rising in the east, which is usually behind me over there. So if the sun rises here, Penville here is the north, then I would always know that here is northeast. If you're in the south of the island and you know where the sun is rising, if it's in the morning and you're lost and you're trying to find your way, you would know, like it was said, Alejandra said, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So if the sun rises in the east, you can know, oh, this side is the east. So if I'm trying to find my way to Casabruce and I am further down south, I can go up to that way because there I'm heading northeast. Now, if it's at the end of the day and we're trying to find our way and we're lost and we want to know where is west, or where is north or south or east, we know that the sunset is always in the west. And if the sunset is in the west and we're trying to find our way north, we go up that way. If we're trying to find our way south, we go down. But I wanted to also share with us a few other ways of how we can know where is north, if it's in the night, or where is our different directions, if it's in the night or in the day. Now we could, when we look at a tree, it said that the mossy part, so sometimes you may look at a tree and you may find one part of the tree have a lot of moss on it. That means the things that's growing on it that looks for like it's wet or it's moist because it's not getting the direct rays of the sun. Now the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. But the sun, seeing that we are in the north part of the hemisphere, that we are above the equator, the north part of the tree would always be more mossy and it would always have that green things growing on it. So you could look at some trees later on and you could test it to see if it's true. The north part of the tree would always be the part that have more moss. So that direction would be north if you're lost. If you're walking through the forest and you're seeing that, then you can ensure to look at that part as the north. 1 second. Then, okay, now that's a great way of knowing which part is north, which part is south, which part is east, and which part is west if you're hiking. Now, if it's a nighttime, there's an excellent way of knowing where north is because we could look at the North Star. Can anyone tell me what constellation this is? Or what
Miss Polaris.
Okay, it's a Big Dipper. Great. I think Polaris, that maybe I need to make sure I check that again to see if it's synonymous, but it's the Big Dipper. Okay.
The North Star is the arrow that the star that the arrow is pointing on, Miss.
Yes, it is the star that it's pointing on. But in terms of the pattern of the stars here, we normally see 4 stars in like a box, like a basin format, and there are 3 other stars on the tail of that. Now, if we look at the top part here, I probably can use my annotator for this one. If we look at the top part here, it points towards the North Star, okay? It points towards the North Star. So this is a way that we can definitely see where north is, if we look at Big Dipper is one of the stars that are most visible in the night when you look up at the sky. And maybe through your clubs, you would have to do stargazing so you'd be able to know where Big Dipper is. But when you look at Big Dipper, you'd be able to see, okay, this is definitely north. And if this is a North Star, then I would know where I need to go if it's a nighttime. But like we mentioned as well, if you're lost, instead of walking around at night when it's dark, you should find a place, stay there, stay safe, so that when it's more visible, you would be able to go out. Now, this part for selecting a campsite is important for companions as well as explorers. There are different things that we need to consider when we are selecting a campsite. What are some of the things that we need to consider? I want a companion and explorer to share that with us. Companions and explorers, share with us. What's important? Raise your hands, and then we'll be able to choose you. What about some persons who've never spoken before? Someone who've never spoken before. What about Basana? Basana and Janaya, Jason Stewart, Josiane Gorin, Shanique. I'm seeing some names I haven't heard spoken before. Okay, can you share with us? I mean, it's on the screen as well. Seeing Cherise Hector. Yes, can you go?
Don't choose a campsite where a lot of rain usually falls.
Don't use a campsite where what?
Where a lot of rain usually falls.
Oh yes, don't choose a campsite where it rains a lot. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yes, someone, Basan, I think you was just unmuting your mic, Basana.
Don't come too close to a stream.
Okay, don't come too close to a stream. That's in case it rains a lot and the water expands, then you could be in an area that's prone to flooding. Thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, how about Abina Tony? Abina? Okay, probably, yes, Abina?
Don't come too close where landslides can happen.
Okay, don't come too close where landslides can happen. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we also have to choose a ground where it's well drained. So if it's going to rain, or if it rains, we cannot stay in a basin, because if we stay in a place that's a basin, if it rains, all the water is going to come down like this, and it's going to soak up all the area where our tents are. And our beds are all going to be wet and everything is going to be a total mess. So we have to go in an area where if it rains, the water is like gentle sloping, so it will all go down to a stream or go down to the river. Okay, so choose a place that's well drained, but also choose a place that's dry. And like I said, don't choose a place that's raining often or a place that's wet. Stay also away from mosquito infested swamps. Because if we stay in a place that have lots of mosquitoes at night, what's going to happen? We're all going to be sleeping and have to be fanning away all the mosquitoes from our face. We must never camp on the overhanging ledge or cliff, because if there's a landslide, that could destroy and kill everyone, all right? Or it's also very unsafe because we could also become injured. We should always ensure that our tents are not placed on the trees with large dead branches. Some persons may say, oh, I want shade. But if there's a large dead branch, anytime that branch could fall and it could cause an accident, okay, and hurt persons who are under. We should also ensure that it's not a hard, rocky terrain, because it's going to make a very poor campsite. Imagine you're sleeping and you have to be trying to get comfortable on stones and rocks under you. That's certainly not comfortable. Also pitch your tent towards the southeast side so that the morning sun will keep it dry. Now, if it's directly towards the east, the sun would be really hot, okay? It would really make make your tent hot and uncomfortable. But if you turn it towards the southeast side, then it would keep your tent dry and it would be really good, but it would not be overpouring and make your tent too hot, okay? So it's important, we know where north is, we know where south is, but turn it slightly in the middle between south and east, southeast, so that we can keep our tent dry. If there's a lot of wind, we should pitch our tent with the door away from the wind. So if the wind is blasting in and we put the opening of the tent towards the wind, it will blow away the tent, all right? So we should put it away from where the wind is. Now, if there's plenty of dry wood, that's important. It's important to camp in a place that's close to dry wood. So if you need to make a fire, you could always make a fire with the dry wood that's around. And pick a camping area where it's safe to drink and water is readily available. All right? Now, I know we are now at 11:14, but I just want to share with you this final part, which is about topographical maps. Now, we spoke about hiking, okay, and camping. But when we see this picture on the screen, is it confusing or does anyone know anything about what's on the screen? Tell us, do you know what's on the screen or is it confusing?
It's confusing.
It's confusing. Didn't bind it already. Enough confusing.
Very
Okay.
confusing.
So for lots of you, it's very confusing. So I hope very soon, like in 5 minutes, you will find that this is not so confusing anymore because you'll be able to understand a little bit about something, all right? So when we look at this, a topographical map, it really helps us to, or maybe I should ask, someone said it's not confusing. Can you share with us what a topographical map is?
It shows the Earth's surface from a sky view.
It shows, who said that? I'm trying to see.
Abina.
Very good. That's excellent, Abina. It shows the Earth's surface from a sky view. Okay, so you see this picture on the left, figure 1, it shows it from a ground level, right? Because you look and you see, oh, that's a mountain. Oh, that's a river. Oh, that's a this, that's a that. But the other picture on the right side shows it from the top view, okay? Now, if we look at the two of them, we look at the left, we see there are 2 mountains, right? There are 2 mountains there. And we see some hills, some little hills, and we see some higher parts. If we look on the right side, it shows the contour lines. The contour line shows what is higher, what goes this way, that way. So it shows you the shapes and the elevation of what's in our atmosphere. We see 2 mountains here, but we also see some hills. We see our mountains have different shapes. So here, I could annotate on the screen for you to see this part here. So we see here is a curve here, okay? This here also shows that curve. It shows the same thing because you're looking at it now from above and not from direct. Now we have 2 mountains. This is one mountain and this is another mountain. This here, where you see a circle and other circles surrounding it, or not necessarily a mountain, but a hill, you would see a circle. Malika, you could also clear that. Okay, so I'll be the only one annotating for this one. All right, so we see clear viewers drawing. Okay, so we see that this is a hill here and this is another one here. How we know that is because the circles surround other circles. So we see a small circle, then a larger circle, then a larger one and a larger one. And we also see here says 200, that means it's 200 feet above ground level. This is 100, it's 100 feet above ground level. Here we see 100 feet. This here 100 feet above ground level. And here 200 feet on this side. Maybe I should show a different color. So here is, no, maybe if I do here. So here is 200 feet and here is 100 feet. So the same we see here for 100 feet and here for 200 feet. So this helps us to see it here. This here helps us to see on the ground level, and this here helps us to see on the upper level. Now, if we go to clear all drawings, if we go to the next picture now, we go back to what it looks like, we could now see where we have circles. So can you tell us how many hills are there? Or I should say, how many tall peaks are there in this picture?
Excuse me, miss.
Yes?
Is it good that I can put like dots on the screen so I can count?
No, don't put dots on the screen. Use your hand and try and identify by pointing from your screen, but don't write on the screen, okay?
Miss 6.
Okay, you say 6. Anybody have any different answer?
5.
4.
5.
5.
5.
Okay, so let's see with the picture, let's see how many complete that we are seeing on the screen, not part that's off the screen. So maybe I should be a little more explicit so that we all get the same numbers. That some could be using part of what's on the screen, like, you know, you take a picture, you see part of a mountain. What number of mountains are we seeing?
I see
Complete
I
mountains.
see 5. Complete mountains 1.
5.
Okay.
5. 5. 5. 5.
You're saying 5 because others say 5, or saying 5 because you see. So I'm going to do the count, all right? And you're going to tell me if there's anything else that you want us to count. So this is 1. That's right or wrong?
Right.
Right.
This is 2.
Right.
This is 3. This is 4. Where's 5?
Bottom. The bottom left.
Bottom left?
That is not a full mountain. Wait, no, the bottom.
At the bottom right there.
Yes, miss. Right
Yes.
This is not complete. We're not seeing the whole thing.
It's at the bottom.
It's piece, but we're not seeing the whole thing. We're asking about the complete one
Yes,
that we
but
could see the top of it. So for any other one, I hope I'm not seeing any other one, but these are
Miss, it have another one, miss.
where?
I think you
Miss,
have
I can
one
mark
right
it,
next to the
miss?
second one you circled.
Okay, I will allow you to mark it. That's just like a little here. We're seeing, like, you know, when you have a circle and another, like we see here, a circle, another circle, another circle. Like these are the mountains or the big hills that we are seeing. Okay, and this one.
Pieces, Tiame, pieces, not whole.
And this is another one. So we're seeing 4 major ones. All right, that's the 4 major ones I'm seeing. I'm seeing here, there's another hill, something here, but that's about it. Here we're not seeing the whole thing. We're seeing like a piece of it, but I guess you guys get the point, right? You get to see now that when you have circles going around other circles and forming other circles, that means it's a mountain or it's a hill or an elevation. Now, I want to show you guys another point that will help you to understand a bit more about topographical maps. Now, we have lines, different lines. This may be a little blurry, but I want to share it with you and we go back and see the other one. We have different lines.
Forgive me, sorry.
Yeah?
Officer.
If you have a gadget.
Yes?
Yeah, just let me know that the senior pathfinders are done.
Okay, great.
Would you want them to still wait in the waiting room?
We'll come back in 5 minutes. Can they wait for 5 minutes and we just have a close up?
I will let them know.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Miss,
so yeah,
if you have a tablet or phone, you can actually zoom in. Same way you zoom in on a document, and I think you can see better.
Okay, great. So those who are unable to see, you could zoom in so you could see a bit better. But this helps us to see different parts of the topographical map. We could see where there's a main road. We could see where there's secondary roads. It would be shaped like this. We could see other roads in other colors. We could see tracks with, like, you know, like short lines. We could see footpaths that have much shorter lines. We could see where we have buildings or police station, a hospital, a church. We could see different things that could help us to know what's there. You see the contour lines here, like how we had the contour lines. Let me just show you, annotate again, and show you this section here, the contour lines, because this would be the lines that goes around for us to know what's a tall hill or a short one. We could see swamps, mangroves, trees, forests, and different things. Now, seeing that we've seen these clear drawings, and we go back now to the map, we could definitely see where the footpaths are, because you see here, we could see the lines that show us where you can walk and where you cannot walk. These are areas that you could walk. You could take this path here, or you could take that path here, okay? Different paths. And there are different rivers and tributaries and stuff around that you could see where would be a river and where you could walk. Where would be a mountain, where you could go around this mountain here, where would be safe and where would not be safe. If you find yourself in between these areas here, it would definitely not be safe. So I hope that you can understand that when you look at these maps, it will help you to know where a mountain is, where you can walk, where a river is, where it's safe to walk and where it's not safe to walk. And
excuse me, miss.
Yes?
I just realized something. The mountain, the mountain you just showed the path around this, it like when you are saying that they have to be full, miss, that one kind of just pinch outside a little bit. So like you might not have to count that.
Which one? You mean for this one here?
Yes. It's
so
a little bit outside.
Okay, but we see the top. We see like the complete top, which is like here. And we have the base here and the base here. So I do get your point in what you're saying, but we could see most of the mountain from here and even the sides of it. So we could see for sure that this is a mountain. This one, we cannot see here the full top of it. Neither here we cannot see the full top of this one. Neither here we cannot see the full top of this one. But we could see the full top for this, for this, for this, and for this one that we had. Okay, so I hope that many of you got to understand about the map, how you can use it if you're hiking, how you can find your way better, because it gives you an idea of where the different elevations are. We don't have so much time for questions, but anyone have any burning questions that they want to ask? Or it was clear to you? I hope it was clear to all of you. If it was clear, say clear. Say clear in the chat, put clear in the chat. If it was clear, put clear in the chat. Okay, we see clear, clear, clear. I hope everyone got to understand clear. And if you have any questions, you could always ask your directors, your counselors, so that you can learn more about the areas that we dealt with today. Okay? So,
excuse me,
yes?
Miss, you can send the notes in the chat, Miss.
I will be able to share. Okay, here's what I'm going to do for everyone on this session. I'm going to share with you the link to the presentation so that you would be able to go through it. You'd be able to go through it on your own timing, but we'll also share it with your coordinators so that you would be able to get it from them. So I'm sharing the link here in the chat, and we're going to go back to the main chat, the main room, so that we could all have a good closing with all Pathfinders, okay? So, no, this is the YouTube that we had the other stuff. I'm going to copy again and share that with you.
Excuse me, please, Miss.
Yes?
When we was talking about the electricity, you say when we touch the fridge and it shock us, why we have to unconnect the fridge?
Oh, not to disconnect it, but if you're going to work in it or you're going to fix something about it, it would be important to disconnect it before you go in and, well, the electrician, before he goes in to try and organize it. But if you, let's say something is shocking and it's like causing a real big problem and it's cracking and it's ready to cause a fire, you would have to unplug it from the switch so that it doesn't cause a fire and makes it difficult. All right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
I sent the link in the chat so that everyone can click and get access to the presentation. But we'll also share the link with your directors and counselors so that you could get it from them in case you missed it. All right?
Yes.
All right. So everyone, we're going to close off the rooms and we're going to go back to the main room. It says it's closing in a few seconds. So thank you so much for being part of our session today. And I wish you guys all the best and hope that at our evaluation, you'll be able to pass this with flying colors. Remember to write your summaries. Remember to write your one-page summary of this session and share with your leaders. Okay? Thank you, everyone.